Bible that is a time in which we should be doing no unnecessary labor. If you look at Numbers chapter 15, beginning in verse 32, this is what you read. While the people of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. And those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moses and Aaron and to all the congregation. They put him in custody because it had not been made clear what should be done to him. And the Lord said to Moses, "This man shall be put to death. All the congregation shall stone him with stones outside the camp." And the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him to death with stones, as the Lord commanded Moses. When you think about what is going on in this passage right here, that there's a very clear implication. This man should not have been gathering sticks on the Sabbath. He should not have been doing that which is work. He should have done his gathering of sticks during the 6 days, not on the 7th. There are things that are necessary on the day of rest, but certainly not the sort of hard labor that could have easily been done during these 6 days. And I'm sure that the people of Israel looked at this and they said, this is a harsh penalty. All the guy was doing was gathering sticks. But you also have to understand that God is a holy God. And when he gives you a commandment, he expects you to keep it. The fourth commandment is a commandment. It is not a suggestion. So, you are not to work on the Sabbath. You are not to work on the day of rest. And your kids are not to work either. Neither your son nor your daughter is allowed to work on the Sabbath. Those of you who are parents, you are responsible for your entire family to make sure that this is a day in which they are not working, but rather they are spending it in rest and in worship. In our culture, whether we're talking about American culture or Okinawan culture, our culture tells us that we are not really so responsible for this. We are not really so responsible to make sure that our family is spending the entire day in worship and in rest. But you need to look here and you need to see that this is directed towards you who have kids, you who have servants. It is important that you who are in charge make sure that everyone who is under you is not working and not encouraged to work. You are to lead by rule. You are to say, don't do this. Make sure that those who are under you do not work, and you're not to encourage anyone to work. You who are parents, you need to lead by example. Your kids are not going to learn to love the Sabbath if they see you breaking the Sabbath. So let's think for a moment about sports day. The greatest enemy to the biblical day of rest is not some sort of a government restriction. It's not even employees who want their people to work on Sunday. It is our society's desire for pleasure. Sunday is probably the greatest day for sports in American society, in westernized society. And we have taught the Japanese to be just like us in this way. Those of you who are parents, you have the opportunity to teach your kids what is really, really important in life, what is most important in life. So here's a question. What's most important in life? You say, well, God is. That's the right Christian answer. I know that that's the right sort of a Sunday school answer. Everybody should know that God is the most important thing in life. Well, let me tell you something. If you take your kids and you have them outside of worship in order to participate in sports day or other things, you're not teaching them that God is most important. You're not leading by example in the way that you should be. The third thing that you see is that your servants are not allowed to work on the day of rest. Don't encourage anyone else to work for money. Obviously, when you're looking at the fourth commandment, it says, you shall not work on the day of rest. But it even goes so far as to say, those who are under you shall not work on the day of rest either. Make sure that your employees are not working on Sunday. We're going to look at a passage from Nehemiah that explains this rather well. And when this passage was written, you have to understand what was going on in Israel. Israel was a nation that was set aside by God for his purposes. And Israel turned away from the one true God in many ways. They broke the Ten Commandments. They broke the commandment to set aside a day of rest for God. And because of the way in which they broke all of these commandments, God brought punishment upon them. He allowed them to be destroyed by another nation. The few people that remained were taken off into exile. And eventually, God had mercy upon them and allowed them to return to their own land. And Nehemiah was written during this time in which they returned, during this time of rebuilding, when the temple was being rebuilt, when the wall was being rebuilt, when the nation of Israel was being rebuilt. So bearing that in mind, listen to this passage. In those days I saw in Judah people treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in heaps of grain and loading them on donkeys, and also wine, grapes, figs, and all kinds of loads, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I warned them on that time when they sold food. They brought, and I warned them on that day when they sought food, or when they bought food. Tyrians also, who lived in the city, brought in fish and all kinds of goods and sold them on the Sabbath to the people of Judah in Jerusalem itself. Then I confronted the nobles of Judah, and I said to them, "What is this evil that you're doing, profaning the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers act in this way? And did not our God bring all this disaster on us and on this city? Now are you bringing more wrath on Israel by profaning the Sabbath?" As soon as it began to grow dark at the gates of Jerusalem before the Sabbath, I commanded that the doors be shut, and I gave orders that they should not be opened until the Sabbath, or until after the Sabbath. And I stationed some of my servants at the gates, that no load might be brought in on the Sabbath day. Then all the merchants and sellers of all kinds of wares lodged outside Jerusalem once or twice. But I warned them and said to them, "Why do you lodge outside the wall? And if you do so again, I will lay hands on you." From that time, they did not come on the Sabbath. Then I commanded the Levites that they should purify themselves and come and guard the gates to keep the Sabbath day holy. Remember this also in my favor, O my God, and spare me according to the greatness of your steadfast love. So the people of Israel had been allowed to return to their own land. They had begun to rebuild the nation. But there was this big problem that was going on in Israel, something that got Nehemiah rather upset. Everyone was doing work on the day of rest. They were buying and selling food. It had become a normal day of commerce in Jerusalem. And even foreigners were selling things in Jerusalem. There were merchants from Tyre that were there. And so Nehemiah went to the rulers and the people that were under him. And this is what he said. This is the sort of thing that got Israel into a big mess. You guys, we as the people of Israel sinned against our God. We disobeyed the Ten Commandments and we went into exile. We don't need to be doing that again. God has just restored us. Let's make sure that we stay restored. We need to make sure that people are not working on the Sabbath day. And so Nehemiah worked to stop all of this trade that was going on inside of Jerusalem. And so he closed the gates so that people couldn't come in there and do their work inside Jerusalem. And what happened? Well, all the merchants figured out that they needed to plan ahead of time. And so what they did is, before these gates were closed, they would just go outside and they would sell everything right outside of Jerusalem. And they said, and it's like they were saying, well, fine, if we can't sell our stuff inside of Jerusalem, we'll just sell it right on the outside, and then everything will be okay, we'll still make money, and Nehemiah will be happy. Well, Nehemiah said they only did that once or twice. And then I made sure that that stopped as well. People will do most anything that they can to make money. They will work on Sunday. They will work other people on Sunday. They will claim that they have to do it in order to make a profit, in order to remain competitive. But don't you be like that.